Esau is pronounced Isa. Isa. In Arabic, the name Isa is Jesus. Listen, nobody worth going to hell for or with. And I mean nobody. Listen, Jacob had a brother named Esau. In Arabic, Esau is pronounced Isa. Isa. In Arabic, the name Isa is Jesus. Listen.
Somebody shout, I'm free. I just came to tell you what has already been paid for by his blood. By his blood. By his blood. I'm a grown man. Somebody shout, I'm free. Somebody shout, I'm free. I'm a grown man. I'm a grown man. Sometimes you got to remind yourself, I'm a grown woman. Sometimes you got to remind yourself you're free, especially when people try to dominate you and control you and tell you what to do and where to go. Sometimes you got to remind yourself, I'm a grown woman. I'm a grown man. Sometimes I don't want to go. Why you not? I don't want to go. That's my why. I'm free. Somebody shout, I'm free from the bondages that held me. I just came to tell you what has already been paid for by his blood. By his blood. Somebody shout, I'm free. By his blood. Somebody shout, I'm free from the past that constrained me, from the fear that intimidated me, from the demons that attacked me, from the witch that tries to hex me, from the generational curses that tried to bind me, from my habits and my past, from my proclivities and my weakness. Somebody shout, I'm free. Every time you say it, hell gets nervous. Every time you say it, demons tremble. Every time you say it, there's an earthquake in Hades, because the devil does not want you to know that you are free. When you know you're free, you don't need a Juneteenth. When you know, see, if you don't know you're free, you'll keep working like a slave because you haven't got the message yet that you are free. That's why preaching is so important, because it announces to the captive that the price has been paid on Calvary that purchased your freedom. And if you don't want to be a drug addict, and if you don't want to be a dope dealer, and if you don't want to be a whoremonger, and if you don't want to be a liar, and if you don't want to be a hypocrite, I just came to tell you what has already been paid for by his blood.
When these preachers like T.D. Snakes and Creflo O'Penny and Benny Hinn and others tell you Satan don't have no power, you done lost your mind. If he didn't have no power, how could he cause war in heaven? And a whole third of the angels took sides with Satan and backslid and joined him to have war in heaven. Satan got plenty of power. I heard one preacher say to the people, Satan don't have no power unless you believe it. Listen, if your house on fire, you ain't got to believe it's burning. If your house is on fire, you want to stay there and don't believe it's burning like a fool, go ahead. Won't be so long when you're done coughing and gagging, you will run out of there and admit the house is burning. The devil got plenty of power. Don't you feel him? Don't he bother you? The part of the human body that Satan bothers the most is not your flesh. He bothers the mind, because the flesh take a break and rest. But sometimes Satan dives into your subconscious mind even when you sleep. And next thing you know, you commit adultery in your sleep. A seducing spirit. Here's someone in the truth, but yet got a seducing spirit will try to pull you to the side away from the church to debunk the truth and tell you, man, you ain't got to believe that. You ain't got to believe it. And when you're weak and mentally and emotionally unstable, you start getting under the wing of a beginner. And then they manipulate you and con you and trick you and pull you right out of the faith, and then you end up going to hell with him or with her. Right. Let us understand something. Nobody worth going to hell for or with. And I mean nobody. Listen, the apostles' doctrine is the teaching of Jesus. The apostles' doctrine is the teaching of Jesus. So you have the apostles' doctrine and you got the devil's doctrine. Now the devil's doctrine clash with the apostles' doctrine, but being that Satan is a serpent, he borrowed from some of the apostles' doctrine and blended with the devil's doctrine, and now he manipulated and mixed it up so good you can't tell the devil's doctrine from the apostles' doctrine. Right. To make a better example, if somebody wants to destroy you, they can make a good salad and then put some type of poison or rat droppings in you think is little plump peppers. Listen. All right, let's see how many names God had. Give me the book of Zechariah. All right, Zechariah 14:9. Follow me and get me. I want to soak you a little. Now, if you go to a foreign country, they will say your name in their language, but it won't take away from the fact it's your name. In Spanish, my Spanish brothers and sisters, how do you say the name Jesus in your language? Jesus, correct? It's still Jesus. The Hebrews say Yeshua. The reason why they say Yeshua, because one, there is no J's in the Hebrew grammar. Joshua is pronounced in Hebrew Yeshua. Yeshua is the name Jesus in Hebrew. Jacob had a brother named Esau. In Arabic, Esau is pronounced Isa. Isa. In Arabic, the name Isa is Jesus. So if I say Isa, that's Jesus. Hashua, that's Jesus. Jesus, that's Jesus. Whatever language. You see, God is an intelligent God. He knows everybody that don't have one language.
They fight against the Israelites who try to free their mind, their spirit, from the yoke of bondage. Black men and black women have become their own worst enemies today, fighting against the truth that God is black. Christ is black. The angels are black. And that's right, the 12 tribes of Israel are black. Slaveholders developed a system. It was called seasoning. You ever hear these Christians talk about this is your season? You dumb black Christians. It was called, seasoning. It was a process under which strong men and women were broken, stripped of their dignity, and tortured. Seasoning was a brutal system, a system that remade men in an image pleasing to their oppressor. I want you to see that. It made us in the image pleasing to their oppressor. It rewarded good behavior and punished bad behavior. It turned captive men into things, their captives into beasts. The wise slave master never took seriously the belief that my people were natural-born slaves. He knew that African men and women fresh from the continent had to be broken in, forced to accept a subservient position. Slaves could never be trusted fully. Men wanted to be free. If slavery were to work, if strong men and succeeding generations were to wear the yoke of bondage, Deuteronomy 28:48, their psychology would have to be altered. Let's read that part again. I want y'all to see it. Their psychology would have to be altered. That means changed. Our state of mind would have to be changed. They would have to be made to believe that they were innately inferior and accept slavery as their natural condition. The seasoning process was neither quick nor easy. It took months, years, generations to break my people's spirit. Slaveholders knew the process was essential. Without it, the slaveholding regime would fall. The seasoning began shortly after the arrival of a new shipload of enslaved Africans. Most planters selected trusted slaves, those who had already been successfully conditioned to train the new arrivals. Seasoned slaves taught, seasoned slaves taught the novices the rudiments of plantation life and how to survive in the cruel new world. They taught them to communicate, to use the tools, to greet white men with lowered eyes. They taught them their new names: Wilsons, Dewberries, Rays, Dobson, Young, Washingtons, Franklins. They taught them their new names and made sure they understood the new culture and its values. They soothed new arrivals, shielded them as best they could from violent overseers, and tried to explain how they would never again be free, never again return to the country of their birth.
Somebody shout, I'm free. I just came to tell you what has already been paid for by his blood, by his blood, by his blood. I'm a grown man. Somebody shout, I'm free. Somebody shout, I'm free. I'm a grown man. I'm a grown man.
They convinced the novices, the beginners, that compliance was in their best interest, that rebellion would result in death. New arrivals were not the only ones to undergo this conditioning. Each generation underwent a series of psychological and physical tortures to make them stand in fear. You can't make this stuff up. Here's an example. This is why people accept white Christianity, or white supremacy, so wholeheartedly. And they fight against the Israelites who try to free their mind, their spirit, from the yoke of bondage. Black men and black women have become their own worst enemies today, fighting against the truth that God is black. Christ is black. The angels are black. And that's right, the 12 tribes of Israel are black. And we went into slavery because, according to Deuteronomy 28, verse 15 through 68, we broke the commandments of God and were made to suffer a life of bondage and oppression and slavery.
I'm about to show you Gino Jennings, Pastor Gino Jennings, who sat down with Jesse Lee Peterson. Now, Jesse Lee Peterson has contacted our office several times for the past year and a half, and I've declined to go. I don't have time for jokes and foolishness. He's reached out. Some other camps went on. I may decide to go on Lord's Will Life last. If not me, I'll have one of the deacons go on. Maybe. That's all maybe. But anyway, I want you to see how Gino Jennings is afraid to say Christ is black. You see how simple I said it? Christ is black. He hems and haws and rigmaroles about in the region where he came from, in the region, who gives a damn about a region? What does the scripture say, pastor? So I want you to see it takes him almost a minute, maybe 46 seconds to confess that Christ is black. Then he says some other things about God is not a spirit. God is a spirit, and spirits have no color. I'm going to deal with that today too. And how images are all evil. I'm going to deal with that too.
Through the years, pictures is a form of religious propaganda. Our ancestors, we are a product of slavery. And many of the Europeans have used the Bible to empower themselves and to deprive our mothers and fathers and grandmothers and grandfathers of truth. So therefore, they have took scriptures and used it to their advantage and used it to the disadvantage who was not scripturally educated. So the European have took the pictures and said, this is Jesus, a white Jesus everywhere. So this, when I came up in my home, it was guaranteed there's going to be a picture of a so-called white Jesus, John F. Kennedy, and Martin Luther King. I call them the earthly trinity. And this vision or view of a white man supposed to be Jesus have empowered the white racist society. So what religion have done, the European slave master have used that image to hold in front of people of color for years, making them believe that it is the will of God that you bow to anything that is white. So if they bow to Jesus, they find it very easy to bow to white bigotry, white racism, and then accept white hatred as the will of God. So my objective was, and my objective is, to destroy the image that have been plaguing religion for years. And if you go into churches today, you find that image in the Bibles. You find that image on your stained windows. You find that image on crosses. You find that image all over the place. If you look at the region where Jesus came from, was not a region where white brothers and sisters was from. Jesus come from an area where people was of color. He came from a region of people of color. He was black. When I say black, well, he was dark, light, brown, I don't know. But yes, Jesus did come from a region of people of color, black people. What you're talking about is the spirit. The spirit of God is not black. Jewish part was the flesh that come from the house of David, from the tribe of Judah. The Jews were not a white-skinned people. The Jews were people of color. Jesus, the region where he come from, was a region of people of color. Now, when you talk about the Spirit of God is of no color. For the book of scripture says Christ was in the prophets. So the Spirit of Christ that was in the prophets, no color. I would not encourage of no one to make an image of God of any form, because God says, make no image of me. Like I said, the flesh and blood, that was the Jew. That was not God. What was in Jesus, that was God.
You heard it for yourself. Pastor Gino Jennings said that images are a sin. Black images are a sin. God is a spirit. The spirit has no color. He is 100% wrong in what he is saying. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 14.
They fight against the Israelites who try to free their mind, their spirit, from the yoke of bondage. Black men and black women have become their own worst enemies today, fighting against the truth that God is black. Christ is black. The angels are black. And that's right, the 12 tribes of Israel are black, fighting against the truth that God is black. Christ is black. The angels are black. And that's right, the 12 tribes of Israel are black. The 12 tribes of Israel are black. The 12 tribes of Israel are black.